Hello, my name is Michelle, and I recently retired probably about 8 months ago, and I had taught for over 20 years. And this video is in response to Michelle Emerson, who is over on Pocketful of Primary. I recently revamped my Mocha Teacher channel, and I really wanted to figure out a way, how can I help teachers? Because even though I left early and I know it can be overwhelming, I mean, I did last for over 20 years. And so she recently did a video about how, her and her team were having a hard time teaching their students multiplication facts. And I was like, oh, perfect. I can share how I used to do it. And I'm not going to lie, it absolutely broke my heart when I watched her video. Hopefully she'll get a chance to see this. And if you are watching, Michelle, I feel your pain. I know what it feels like to want to do your best and you can't. And, I don't want to get emotional on here, but I trust me, I understand. So my heart goes out to you because I know that feeling. So I want to share how I used to teach my students their multiplication facts. I taught third grade many, many moons ago, and it was one of just such a fun activity that my team and I used to love to do. The things I'm going to show you here are just things that I used and then things that I found, recently on the internet when I was making this video. So hopefully you will find it helpful. Okay, so the first thing is I always share the why with my students. And so even though this may seem like this is like a little heavy for third graders, it's really not. They understand it. And so I go over this cone of learning, and it talks about how there's different, like how we remember things, and it really just taps into their senses. So, it talks about if you read something in 2 weeks, you're only going to remember 10% of that. Whereas if you see it and hear it, you'll remember like half of it. And so then it drops down to, if you say it and do it, you'll remember like 90%. So I share this with them so that they understand that in order for us to really learn our multiplication facts, we really have to like incorporate as many senses as possible. So we're going to see it, we're going to hear it, we're going to say it. We will actually kind of be tasting it because that's part of our celebration. And kind of smelling it because that's part of our celebration too. But I always share this with the kids so that they understand that there's actual brain research that shows that when you incorporate more senses, you just hold on to information more. So then from there, what we did is we would do time drills, okay? And so you explain to the kids every week you're going to take a 1 minute facts quiz to show how well you know your facts. And every week is going to focus on one or two numbers. And so, in order to move to the next set, you have to be able to show that you understand those numbers in less than a minute. And I would give the kids like 10 weeks. Once I show you the multiplication Sunday, you'll see why, because then that gives kids some extra time. Now, when I did this, I would actually do it around, it depends on when the school year happened or started, but the goal was that the celebration would be like that week or the week before the winter break. So like the Christmas break if you're in the United States. Now I'm making this video literally right before Thanksgiving, so you couldn't be able to do it then, but you could still start it and at least the kids would have their facts memorized, probably by spring break. So you could maybe pull it off that way. So, what you do is let everybody know that they're only practicing one set of facts a week. And to make it easier for you, you're only doing one set of facts. Now, I must say, back in 100 years ago when I did this, I actually did this like literally in the 90s. I think it was like 97, 98. And I'm going to show you the thing I used, and I know there's some creative people out there so you'll be able to recreate it, but it was like a lot easier to find just the single multiplication fact sheets. I had a really hard time finding them online, but hopefully you'll be able to find it. Any resources I found online, I will definitely put it down in the description. But in essence, you're only quizzing the kids on set facts each week. So every minute is only connected to one set of facts, okay? Um, and I think that just helps them kind of lock in and hone in. Now, here's what it looks like. So this is the finished product. So if I have some older teachers watching this, you will remember Mailbox. I don't even think they still make those anymore, but this is what I did. There was this did not actually start off as a multiplication Sunday, but this is what I did, and my team loved it. So we just literally numbered the different pieces of the Sunday, and then you can see my finished Sunday. So then the kids kind of know what it's going to look like. And you see, it's very, it's very inexpensive to do because I just have paper plates, and that's how we were like building our Sundays. And so what you would do is like you would make a copy of the Sunday sheet, which would be, let me see, can I get this to point? So it would be this sheet here, and you would then have every kid like write their name at the top and give them either a folder or a Ziploc bag. I really suggest a Ziploc bag because what's going to happen is as they start cutting the things out, they want to be able to keep up with it. And as you can see, the cherry is at the 12. And so if they're not in a Ziploc bag, sometimes a folder, they'll fall out. So this is just a little easier. Now, if you're one of those teachers like me who used to give their students numbers, you can also have the kids like write their number like on the back of each of the little pieces as they like as it starts getting a little wonky. That way, if they do lose it, they'll find it. So as you can see, the students will get their plates once they pass the twos and the fives. Now, again, even though the twos and the fives are grouped together, they're still their own set of facts. So that means that week when you did it, every kid would get the fact sheet for the twos. You would set a timer literally for 1 minute and say, okay, time's up. And then, then you'll let them do the fives. And when you do the twos and the fives for that first week, you actually it's a little easier to like do the twos, check those, and then tell the kids, okay, give me a second, and then check the fives because you won't know who's getting the fives. And for the kids who didn't pass the twos, then you just tell them, well, just study your multiplication facts quietly while the other kids take the fives. Now, here's some, old school teacher advice. Do not put these Sundays out in the hallway like I did. That was a different time. And you have to know your students because you want a little competition, but you don't want kids feeling bad because the idea is everybody has a chance to get the Sunday because you work in like a few extra weeks. So even if you have an off week, you can always catch up. Now, I stuck with the rule, even though sometimes parents would complain, we just did it once a week, just once a week. The only exception was if you were absent, then you would have a chance to make that up the following Friday, meaning you might take two tests and opposed to one. But I just stuck with it and kept it consistent. So did my team. But now that we're in a different time, we're in a different season. We're teaching just a variety of children. You don't want kids to feel bad. So I would not put like the Sundays in the hallway because then that means, everybody who's walking by is seeing these Sundays. Where my classroom was located, it was pretty. I knew that would happen. As soon as I start recording, my phone would go off. And it's so funny because my son is the only person who could get through. So perfect timing, but I'm going to keep recording. So my class was like located at the end of the hallway. So it really wasn't getting a whole lot of traffic. It was literally only one other class that walked past. But still, knowing what I know now, I would do it inside the classroom and preferably somewhere in the back of a classroom. So like if you have like back cabinets or something, put it there. You want it somewhere where the kids can reach it, but you don't want it somewhere where the kids are lining up. And the reason why is because we know how kids are. And if you have it like right before you go out the door, then while they're waiting, they're in line, then they'll start looking. And as the weeks go on, then it's like, oh my gosh, you only have a banana, or oh, you only have the bowl. And, again, we don't want to stress the kids out. We want to make this fun, but we also want to have some urgency. So again, display them somewhere, but put it away from where like, the kids would be able to stand there and kind of critique each other's. So and explaining to kids every time you pass, you will then get to color in a segment and explain that at the end of the set time period, whatever time period you and your team have decided, then that is when the celebration is happening. And so again, I timed mine, we timed ours like right before Christmas break. But again, I'm doing this video in November, and this is a direct response to Michelle's video. So if she is going to do it or someone else is going to do it, you could probably stage it so that you might be able to have it finished by maybe, I don't know how far away spring break is, but that might work. And so what happens is you explain to the kids, you all, when we have our celebration, we want everybody to be able to participate. And so everybody is, going to get whatever they've earned. And I can be honest with you, I taught third grade for 5 years, and there was not a year where every kid got a completed Sunday. I wish I could say there was, but it wasn't. However, every year out of a class of about 25 to 30, at least 5 to 7 kids got the entire Sunday. But everybody got something. And if you see the way these are organized, you can see the twos, they're kind of broken down based on, kind of ease. So, the twos and the fives were first because those tend to be the easiest. And then if you notice, 10s and 11 are what get you the banana. And then the threes and fours will get you, I think that was like one scoop of ice cream. And then the sixth, seventh, eighth, nines, I think those were all different toppings. So the kids, all these are not, this is not going to be like a giant sundae. Instead, it's going to be like, ice cream and then like different toppings. So, the six might have represented caramel, or seven might have represented sprinkles, it's something like that. And you could totally be as flexible as you want. The 12 definitely represented the cherry though. And so again, just explain to the kids that, we have this many weeks that we're going to do this, and at the end, we're all going to celebrate, and everybody gets whatever they've earned. And so at the end of the day, I think it was only one year where some kid got one banana. And unfortunately, sometimes you have those years, but it does increase accountability because think, if we've been doing this for 10 weeks and in 10 weeks you got a banana, and we've been practicing, I'm calling parents, so again, it helps kids kind of have a certain level of autonomy. But again, it's a great way for the kids to learn. Remember, our big goal is that the kids just learn their multiplication facts a little faster. So even though, the kids may not, get the nines or get the 12s, they'll have a much stronger foundation than they did, before. So again, that's kind of the big goal. And so, just to recap, make sure you get some way to hold the pieces. And I wouldn't like waste the time having the kids cut them out ahead of time. I wouldn't. I would literally just have them cut them out on Fridays when we take the test. Or, you can decide what day you took it, but I always did ours on Fridays. Okay, so here's the multiplication fact sheet. So what you're going to do is you're going to make a copy of this. And I found this, I think it was called Dad's Worksheet or something. Again, I'll link all the resources down in the description. But make copies. You want to make extra copies, okay? Because this is not our time to try to make kids responsible, okay? So kids are not going to be punished when they lose their sheet, because we know they will. So that's why you're not laminating them. You're just making extra copies, have them, somewhere. Also, if I were you, I would upload this. I know most schools now have some sort of LMS, so go ahead and upload it so that parents have access to it. And if you have those creative parents who want to print it out and color code it and cut it, not, they can do all that. But have enough so that every kid can always have it. And every week on Monday, when the week started, I would always say, does anybody need another multiplication sheet? Because we know sometimes things get lost. Again, we want our kids to be successful, so this is not the time to fuss at children about, how'd you lose it? This is your fifth one. Nope, nope, nope. We just keep making copies. And it got to the point where, because I used to make my copies on Fridays anyway, I would just make an extra like 5 or 6 every week once I noticed like who was going to be losing it, who would keep up. But again, just have the copies ready so the kids can access it. So from there, you want to teach the kids how to practice. So we don't want to assume that the kids are just going to innately know how to use this sheet, because probably they won't. So what you want to do is you want to tell the kids, start with the twos and the fives. Start with the twos, and once you feel like you really, really know the twos, then move on to the fives, which, by third grade, I'm assuming this is when we're teaching this, the kids pretty much know twos and fives, because back in my olden days, we would do like the little Macarena, and I'm very into kinesthetics, so my kids moved around a lot. And so we would do, the 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24. Woo! And you could do the same thing with the fives. And if you don't want to do that, I'm going to show you some songs you can play. But again, the twos and the fives tend to be easiest. And so I would suggest at the beginning of every math period, play the facts for that week. So the first week, everybody's practicing the same facts, the twos and the fives. But of course, as weeks go on, then you're literally practicing whatever fact is connected to that week. So you would go like the first week is the twos and the fives, the second week are tens and 11s, and then you just keep going. And then once you get towards the end, you can just kind of like review which ones you feel like what are a lot of the kids still stuck on. Then you kind of play those facts. But I would also sneak this song in whenever possible. So those days when we had indoor recess and the kids were playing, I would have the multiplication song playing in the background. When the kids are arriving in the morning, if there wasn't something on the board for them to do, because I've taught elementary, middle, and high, and when I was an elementary school teacher, the kids didn't really walk into do nows like they do when I taught middle and high school. So I don't know if now in elementary school kids walk in to do nows, but if they don't, then you could totally have that playing in the background. If you just use that time as like the kids can kind of just mix and mingle and talk to each other. But I would sneak that song in whenever possible. Like if you all do a silent dismissal, meaning one of the elementary schools I worked at, they just had on their interactive whiteboard, like it was like slides that would come up and it would show you which buses, and the kids kind of had to pay attention to that. So if you can do it at dismissal and it not be disruptive, because if they announce the buses, then that wouldn't really work. But play the song as much as possible. Remind the kids about the cone of learning, about how you really want them kind of singing along, because they're using more senses, because they're seeing it and they're saying it and they're hearing it. So just remind them of that, and then just remind them to only practice whatever week they're on. So there's no need to try to work ahead, because you can only take one set each week, and stick to that, so that way it feels a little level, so that you don't have kids finishing the Sunday in 3 weeks or 4 weeks. Nope, the goal is that we all have it finished by the time we get to the celebration, so that way it kind of keeps everyone feeling somewhat equal, even if you currently have kids who already know their facts. Okay, so next, there's some additional ways to practice. And so what I would do is I would share these three resources that I'm going to share with you. The first one, I'm kind of going to go out of order, but the first one is going to be this one, which is just practice on a piece of paper. And everybody has paper. And no, the kids don't need a special notebook. You can use the back of an envelope. You can use paper you already have. But I would literally tell them, like, every night, spend, like, it probably takes less than 5 minutes, just write out the facts and say it. So they would have their little chart beside them, and they could just, first set would be they're looking at the chart and they're literally copying it, but they're saying it while they're copying it. So they're writing and saying, 2 times 1 equals 2, 2 times 2 equals 4, 2 times 3 equals 6. And then once they write it while they're looking, then they can write it like on their own and just do it from the top of their, memory. Okay, 2 times 1 is 2, 2 times 3, 2 times 2 is 4, 2 times 3 is 6, and practice that way. And of course, this is not something that's getting ready to take 30 minutes. Like, they should not be spending any more than about 5 minutes, every night on this, because we want to teach kids that, consistency is more important than how long you're practicing something. The other thing they can do now, this is my first time doing recording a PowerPoint, and so I don't know if these links are going to be live. I hope they are, but you know what? I just realized, even if they are, because I'm recording the PowerPoint does not have the capacity to then like pick up what's on my desktop. So what I'm going to do is I will go through the rest of this. Or I wonder, should I just stop it here and then go out and add it in? Huh. Yeah, I'll do it at the end. Okay, so this is going to be a little out of order. Okay, so at the end of this video, I will go out and then come back in since there's only one more slide anyway. And then I'll share these resources with you. Okay, and so then finally, just a word of encouragement. And I found this little quote that says, you are doing the best you can. And trust me, I get it. I understand. I know it is overwhelming. I know it's a lot. Teaching has changed a lot since when I started in 1997. And I retired in 2025 at the age of 50. I don't know if I said that at the beginning of this video. I actually ended up retiring 8 years early. So trust me, I understand that the struggle is real and this is not for the faint of heart, but you can do this, you can do this, you can do this. I believe in you. So just, give it your best shot and, do what's always best for your family. But just know I believe in you. I do. I believe in you. And I hope that you find like the information that I'm publishing on this channel to be helpful because I cannot imagine what it would feel like to go to college for 4 or 5 years and then start a job and within a few months, no, I don't want to do this. Because I can't imagine because I know that that would feel so much like, oh my goodness, I just wasted 4 years or 5 years, depending on how long it took you to get a bachelor's or a master's. But yeah, so hang in there. You definitely can do it. It gets you get better every year. That's what I always tell the new teachers when I would meet them. I would always say it does not get better, but you get better. So trust me, you do get better. You really do. And just hang in there. So I'm going to stop this part of the video and then I'm going to do a screen recording to share that other slide so I can show you those other things. Okay.
In progress.
Okay, so hopefully y'all can hear me. This has been quite a chore here. So what I want to do is show you, first, let me go back because I noticed on this that these two don't actually, like these things were not matching. And so I don't know how that happened, that the pattern sheet that I end up keeping and then the actual completed multiplication sheet, the numbers don't match. I noticed that. So it's up to you which one you want to do. And I do see up in the corner that it did say multiplication Sunday. So I see it was a mailbox idea, but they just didn't have the numbers on the scoops. So again, you can decide which order you want to do because you can see on the original pattern, it's saying the banana was 2 and 5, but then on the one that clearly I did with my students, we made the bowl the 2 and the 5. So I think it's just up to you and however, you choose to do that. So I'm going to escape out of this, hopefully, if it'll let me. I'm going to escape out and then let's go to the resource I wanted to share. So it's so cute. So if you take the kids to actually, let me go from here so it takes you to the actual one that I wanted to share. So this one here, you tell the kids click on whichever thing they're practicing. So if they do twos, they have to unclick the ones and then they hit start. And then you can see they just type in the answer. They can type in the number. And then if they hit enter, it'll go in. I don't know how this will work when it comes to a tablet because I'm doing this from a laptop. But if you show them, if they scroll down, there's all these different multiplication games that they could then also practice. So, for instance, like we're coming up on the winter holidays. So, this one is a 3x3 runner. I'm not usually good with figuring out how to play the games, but luckily the kids always know how to play. So, you can just call this to their attention. I would say probably like share this link with the parents, and then that way they also would, have it. And I didn't click on worksheets, but you never know, maybe they have the single digit like fact sheets. So there's, additional resource there. The other thing is I would do this song with the kids, and this was what I was talking about playing a multiplication song. This has all the facts in it, and it's a really cute little catchy
Rock and learn.
song. I don't know if I have the sound attached, so I don't know if you can hear the song. But I used to do it with my students years ago, so it's so funny.
Yo, we're here to teach you to multiply. You will learn how to have to do it right. Just
Um,
hang with us and for all these
So
five.
you can see, and if you scroll down, you can see here it gives you timestamps. So each week, when you're focusing on different facts, you can just pick whichever one you're focused on. And it's so funny because I'm looking at this and it says this was uploaded in 2019. And I taught this long before 2019. So this is really showing my age because this means I actually had the Rock and Learn like DVD player, which is hilarious, or DVD, and then we put it in a DVD player. But anyway, I hope you found this information helpful. And if you have anything else that you would like me to talk about, leave me a comment below, and I can definitely share some of my other tips and tricks on what helped me get to, 20 plus years of teaching. So have a wonderful rest of the day, and I hope you have a great school year. Bye bye.